I haven't got any slides, but I just wanted to set the scene. I haven't got many football analogies either, but I would say that I'm sort of speaking here with rather like a game of two halves. I've got a head with two hats on at the moment. We in Shropshire just finished doing a very large Love Food Take Waste campaign, kindly supported by RAP. And I suppose many of us think we know how to do recycling campaigns. You know, they're really quite straightforward. You know, you plan what your message is, you do your research, you deliver your campaign, and you sit back and you measure the results, and everything's gone up that's supposed to go up, and everything's gone down that's supposed to go down. And it's actually quite simple. But we found the results of our Love Food Take Waste campaign really quite mixed and very complex, and we're still in the middle of churning through a lot of the results, a lot of the way in which we measured changes in behaviour. And there's some really good stuff, but there's some very weird stuff going on as well. And I thought it was just me, but having spoken to other areas that have also been funded and so, they find some really quite strange results and behaviours. And I suppose what I would say to you is that in terms of getting over the food waste reducing message, it is way more complex than recycling. And I'm sorry to say that there isn't actually a very easy answer. If you think about trying to get someone to recycle, say you add cans to your curbside collection, that's a very easy conversation to have with someone, or easy to put on a leaflet. Did you know you can now put cans in your recycling? That's great, thank you very much. End of the conversation. With Love Food Take Waste, it was much more complex because you had to actually get people to believe that they chucked out food waste. And we did a huge amount of advertising, we did a huge amount of one-to-one conversations with people. I've got a very small team, it's about 2.5 of us. And we had about 2,500 individual conversations with people, and all by about 3, the immediate response was, I don't waste food. And that's a very complex situation, because immediately you don't want to stand and say, actually, you're just a liar, because you waste a huge amount of food. And that doesn't really bode well for our jolly conversation about changing behaviour. And we found we had to sort of circumnavigate. And so what was it? We started talking about saving money. Did you realise you can save money in this way? Did you realise that if you make a shopping list, you can save money? Did you realise you could freeze wine and chop raw onions? Did you realise that if you froze the loaf, you can freeze eggs? And so you actually got people hooked into talking about interesting things about food. And that's fine, but now it takes so much longer than having a quick conversation about you can put your aerosols and fall in your recycling box now. So I hope you didn't come here hoping that there's just going to be a very quick, simple answer about how to do a food waste campaigns. So at the moment there isn't. We're finding that some of our key measures for committed food waste reduced, so I know that we in RAP are having a look at how we measure that particular metric, because it doesn't necessarily show us what people really think. For example, I wouldn't myself fall into the category of a committed food waste reducer anymore, because one of the key questions is, do you make a lot of effort, or do you take a lot of effort to reduce your food waste? And my answer was, well, no, because now I find it quite easy. I don't consider it an effort. So we've got quite a few strange messages there. So to leave on a slightly more positive note, the good news is the campaign we ran, it was very, very well received by the public. They thought it was really helpful. But also by other members of the media. So I would say, as we're kind of in the comms hub, it's a fantastic message to use if you're doing kind of radio, chat shows, interviews, phone-ins. Because many of us have been banging on about recycling for years. You know, thinking, oh, here she comes again. This is something fresh, it's something new, and it can be, tweaked for any kind of year, any kind of age group, which is really useful. So that's the good news. I'll say in terms of advice to local authorities, it's something that several people have picked up on, is our concerns that comms budgets, that particularly the rate to waste minimisation, are under threat. And you'd hope by now, or I'd hope by now, that we prove the case for good communications many times over. But still we're having conversations, whereas we all go, yeah, waste minimisation is top of the hierarchy. But you look at how budgets are distributed, and you have a few grand for waste min and several million for waste disposal. I think perhaps council should be looking at putting their money where their mouth is slightly more. And the other concern is that still there's a mix-up with the idea that perhaps home composting will do it because we can see it. And I think, we're surrounded by kit today. The waste industry is wedded to throwing kit at solutions. And I'm not saying that kit isn't important, but we like trucks and lorries and things we can see, and things we can buy, and things that we can repair, and things that go wrong. And that's kind of what we like doing. So when it comes to something slightly more ethereal, like a communications campaign, that does kind of worry some people. And I think, we've made the case for good comms, and hope that we can now measure the effectiveness of comms against, dropping waste tonnages, but I'm afraid that isn't going to be easy. So I'm sorry, it's a bit of a kind of mixed message, but delivering a kind of food waste reducing campaign isn't as easy as a recycling campaign, but I think we're on the way, and we should beat ourselves up. We've been doing this for perhaps 18 months. Recycling campaigns have taken an awful lot longer. So there we go. There's plenty of discussion.